Get out of Vietnam 20 years after the end of the war. Up next, a look ahead.
Vietnam was going through its first full day in the hands of victorious communist forces. Left behind were thousands of people who had supported the United States. They faced persecution, even death, at the hands of the new government. Upfront reporter Cary Pfeffer is just back from Vietnam. He tells us about the people who still dream of a better life somewhere else.
And that somewhere else, even though it's far away, ends up many times being the United States. Still a strong connection between the two countries. The image is still clear even 20 years later. The helicopter sits on a Saigon rooftop while a lineup of people wait to get on board. Tonight, we look at what happens when the last of the helicopters has left and 20 years passes. You'll meet people with very strong convictions, even after 2 decades have passed, as we continue our series, Vietnam, Losing the War, Winning the Peace. At first glance, Vietnam is on a comeback. A country of 73 million people, places like Ho Chi Minh City are buzzing. But that's not the entire story. First, understand most people live outside the major cities. The average income for a Vietnamese farmer is less than $300 a year. Even those in the cities have their share of complaints. If you sided with the United States back 20 years ago, it can still be a black mark on your record even today. For almost a decade, California attorney Bruce Burns has been handling Vietnamese immigration cases.
There are, I think, over 1 million people who are still trying to immigrate to the United States from Vietnam. These are former people from the re-education camp, people who have relatives, and people who just don't feel comfortable living in this society.
You can find some of those people lined up on benches in the Ho Chi Minh City foreign ministry offices. They come here to wait. It's their last official way out. The line of people left standing when that last helicopter left 20 years ago still exists. But the scene is not nearly as chaotic. In many ways, the United States is still trying to make up for lost time. What you see here is ODP, the Orderly Departure Program. The ODP is actually run by the Americans, working with the Vietnamese government, helping to get the most deserving out of the country. The Vietnamese don't want many of these people anymore, and the Americans are trying to sort through all the requests. Candidates for the Orderly Departure Program must prove their connection to the United States. Former South Vietnamese Army officer Nguyen Van Sang, for example, wants to go, but he's up against a deadline. Both he and his wife worked with the U.S. forces while they were here, but the U.S. will no longer take the adult children of those who are cleared to leave. So someone like Nguyen has to hope he receives clearance right away. His son will soon turn 21 and would have to be left behind. I asked Nguyen if it was really worth all the waiting and worry.
Because I have a son, and I want he will a good future.
Former second lieutenant in the South's Army, Lee An Gia, is also facing the possibility of leaving a child behind. He's been okayed to leave Vietnam, but he has no birth certificate for his 13-year-old daughter.
I want my daughter go with me.
Right now, Mr. Lee is appealing his case, but all the heartache, paperwork, and delays have not lessened his desire to leave.
I feel I lost everything. I must go there. I want to see freedom. Because if I live here, I can't get a good job, any job.
Again and again, the same message comes through. Life hasn't been on track for these people for 20 years, and for all the recent advances in their country, there's still something missing. It's the last thing Mr. Lee told us in a self-conscious whisper.
I want to see freedom.
And after seeing Vietnam trying to balance a communist form of government and a free market economy, you can't help wonder, how long will this last? The people of Vietnam clearly understand freedom. They relish the free market atmosphere that is now allowed. But when will there be pressure to expand that freedom to the running of government, free elections, and that sort of thing? Well, tomorrow we'll give you a good look at the new Vietnam, where the free market is booming and multinational companies are lining up to play a role in this new frontier.
We said